Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from in this webinar. My name is Anja Schüppert. I'm an assistant professor in linguistics at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. And I would like to talk about a pilot study on Dutch-speaking students' content learning in Dutch taught versus English taught lectures today. Unfortunately, we don't have data collected yet because due to the pandemic-related lab closures, we're just restarting our data collection. But I'm going to talk a bit about the background of our study and also show you some examples of the material we used. And as you can see in the subtitle, we are using a head-mounted VR device for data collection. But first of all, let's start out with the background of the study. So here you see a bar graph indicating the percentage of Dutch taught and English taught programs per degree level. So on the left-hand side, you see the bachelor programs in the Netherlands, and on the right-hand side, you see the master programs. And the different colors of the bars indicate the language of instruction. DMI stands for Dutch medium instruction. So these are programs that teach entirely in Dutch, more or less. Of course, English literature is involved, and sometimes English-speaking lecturers are teaching, but the main language of instruction is Dutch. And EMI stands for English medium instruction. And here, typically, all lectures, all material is in English. What you can see is that we are teaching predominantly in English in the master level and predominantly in Dutch at bachelor level, with some slight exceptions. What you also can see is a slight trend if you look at how this developed over the past 5 years. So there is an increasing number of programs using English medium instruction, which is great because it facilitates international exchange. And hand in hand comes a decreasing number of programs using Dutch medium instruction. That is partly because sustaining mirrored programs is financially very unattractive for universities. So you could say that there is actually a language shift ongoing in Dutch higher education. And this language shift is facilitated by the fact that speakers of Dutch, native speakers of Dutch in the Netherlands are overall highly proficient in English. Students' English proficiency is generally at B2 or even C1 level of the Common European Framework of Reference, which is very high. And the same is true for lecturers' English proficiency, that is typically at C1 level. But still, there is a lack of empirical studies that are really suitable to predict student performance during or after a language shift. And that means fewer and fewer students will have the choice of language of instruction because the number of programs taught in Dutch are decreasing. So what our project does is to try to find out how this language shift affects student outcomes. And in the first study, we had a look at how the language of instruction affects the way that lecturers teach. And we had a paired setup where we had 3 lecturers teaching the same topic in both languages. And we made some acoustical analyses and found out that the Dutch taught lectures were slightly taught as a slightly higher speaking tempo. And they contained slightly fewer filled pauses, such as looking for words. Also, the Dutch medium instruction lectures showed a bit of a more varied, more diverse vocabulary. And they were taught with a little bit more liveliness and a pitch that is associated with higher perceived charisma of the speakers. These were subtle differences, but as our speakers were highly proficient in English, we were surprised to find these differences still. So in the current project, we are exploring how this affects students' content learning. And we use video material that has been recorded from 2 lecturers in a similar setup. So we have 2 lecturers with one expertise each. They have more expertises, but they teach on one of their expertises, different topics. But every lecturer teaches the same topic twice, once in Dutch and once in English. We made the recordings using a 360-degree camera that has a lot of lenses all around and shows the full lecture hall. And because we did so, we also added fake students to the recordings. And I'm mentioning this already now because I'm going to show you a screenshot in a while and also some videos. And don't confuse the fake students that you will see with the participants. These are not the participants of the study, but these are really fake students that are just placed in the lecture hall to make the whole material more realistic. So, as I said, the lectures were filmed with a 360-degree camera, but actually we had two cameras in the lecture hall, one in the front of the lecture hall and one back. They were filmed at the same time, so we have two recordings of the very same lecture. And then we did one more manipulation. To the undisturbed normal lecture with the fake students in the lecture hall, we added disturbing students, distractors. So we had one student who came in late and slammed the door, and we had another student eating crisps. And these disturbing students were added to the original undisturbed recordings. So that way we created a disturbed condition, a disturber condition. I'm going to show you a screenshot on the next slide. It's in 2D, of course, because this is a computer screen. But keep in mind that this is a 2D representation of the 3D or 360-degree recording, so it looks very weird, but it will give you an impression of how it looks. Here we go. So here you can see almost in the center of the screen, a little bit to the left, you see the PowerPoint slides, and in front of the slides you have the lecturer. And you can also see the rows where the students, the fake students, all of them are fake students, are seated. So these are not the participants of the experiment. As you can see, if you look closely, you will discover that actually the students that are at the right side of the screen are the same ones as on the left side of the screen. I hope you can see that. They are, as you can, you could say they are cut into half. So that way you can see it's a 360-degree recording. So, as I said, the participants were not the ones in the lecture hall, but they attended the lectures one by one, individually, in the lab, using a head-mounted VR device. Every participant attended 2 lectures in total, and we counterbalanced the order. They attended both topics, but every topic only in one of the languages. This is how it looks if one of our participants in the lab with the head-mounted VR device where the lecture is presented. And our VR glasses also allow us to collect gaze data, eye movements, and we are experimenting with the eye movements and the analysis, the eye movements during lecture attention. But as I said, we haven't collected the data completely yet. On the next slide, on the next slide, I will show you an example from the front camera in the lecture hall, and you will see that there is a red dot almost in the middle of the screen. You will also see it's a movie. It's a short recording of 1 minute roughly. And it shows you how the participant moved around to see the whole lecture room. Well, not the whole, but parts of it. So it is a bit wobbly. And you also see a red dot in the middle, and that is where the participant focused. So here we go.
Welkom allemaal bij dit mini-college over horen met een cochleair implantaat, of een CI afgekort. In dit college wil ik jullie wat vertellen over wat een cochleair implantaat is, hoe het werkt, waarom je er een moet krijgen en uiteindelijk hoe het klinkt om met een CI te luisteren. Maar voordat we dat gaan doen, eerst even iets over gehoor in het algemeen en over gehoorverlies. We kunnen het gehoor van mensen testen, dus hoe goed of slecht je hoort, aan de hand van toonaudiometrie. Wat je dan doet, is je laat een bepaalde toon op een bepaalde frequentie afspelen en die toon wordt steeds een beetje zachter.
Okay, now you have got an impression of how it looked. So this was the recording from the front camera. And keep in mind that our participant is actually seated in the lab. So the next example I'm going to show you is an example from the back camera, also again with the eye movements and the head movements.
Through a magnet, these two are connected. So what it does is it takes the sound that is caught by the microphone, processed through the speech processor, and then it sends it through the transmitter coil and receiver coil to an electrode array. And this is the bit that is implanted in the cochlea. So this electrode array, it can consist of 4, 8, 16, maximum of 22 electrodes. And this is pushed into the cochlea through surgical implantation. So this electrode array, as I said, maximum of 22 electrodes. And what it does is these 22 electrodes take over the damaged hair cells, the functioning of the damaged hair cells. So it stimulates the auditory nerve directly using electric pulses through these electrodes. So we have electric hearing in CI users versus acoustic hearing in normal hearing users.
Okay, so this is an impression from the back camera. And as the last example, I'm going to play for you again an example from the front camera, from the same lecturer. But this time you will see, if you look closely, you will discover the disturbing late-coming student. And you will also see that our participant, again, based in the lab, watching this recorded lecture, is a little bit distracted by this late-coming student. Let's have a look.
In de schelp van de cochlea wordt hij, of het lijkt op de schelp, daarin wordt hij geduwd. En wat er gebeurt is die 22 elektroden, die maximaal 22 elektroden, die nemen de functie over van de 15.000 haarcellen die in een normaal in de cochlea zitten. Dus wat er gebeurt is de elektroden die nemen de functie van de beschadigde haarcellen over. En dat doen ze door elektrische pulsen af te geven.
Okay, I think this gave you an impression of the material we worked with and also the possibilities we have for the analysis. So in the first place, we are interested in the exam grades. So how does a language of instruction affect the way that students learn? Do they learn more or less or more easily in one of the languages? Given that our participants are highly proficient in English, we might not find an effect of language of instruction, which is of course good because that means that students are not affected by the language shift. But we think that there might be an effect in the way that students attend to the lectures, and that it can be displayed or shown in the gaze data. We also look at a modulating, perhaps, effect of language proficiency. So students who are more proficient in English are likely to show a smaller effect or no effect of language of instruction. And we also look at the effect of language learning aptitudes. So it might be the case that students who have more language talent also show a smaller effect of language of instruction on exam results. Then we're interested, of course, in how the disturbing students affect the outcomes. It might be the case that if you listen to a lecture that is given in L2, in a second language, you are more focused and actually more concentrating on the content than if you listen in your native language. So it could be the case that these disturbing students actually are attended to a little less in the English condition. And finally, as I said, all these effects are also investigated in the gaze data and the eye movements. And we do this by quantifying the areas of interest. So we are investigating whether our participants attend more to the teacher in one of the languages, more to the slides, or, as I said, more to the disturbing students in one of the languages. This was our project. You can see the references behind me on the slide, and thank you so much for your attention. Bye-bye.